So let's just look at, this is obesity in the United States versus just vegetable oils. And I want you to look at the far lower left. We see that obesity was 1.2% in the 19th century. It's Scott Allen Carson's work. But if you move clear over to the middle of the graph, you can see obesity had risen to 13.4%, 1961. And then on the far right, upper right, obesity is 42.5%. But look at the extraordinary correlation with the vegetable oils. They move in lockstep. Now let's throw sugars into the mix. So we got sugars on the graph. But again, let's start here back in 1900 when obesity was 1.2%. Notice how high sugar already is. In fact, it's approaching 300 calories, right? In 1907, it exceeded 300 calories when obesity was about 1%, right? 15% of calories of sugar already, right? And then in 1961, you can see that after about the 1920s, sugar was already between 400 and 500 calories a day. And we know obesity was very low in the 1920s through 50s. All right, and then on the, again, the far right, you can see that, again, there's a very strong correlation with vegetable oils in the blue, but little relationship to sugar here. Okay, this is more recent obesity in the United States, beginning in 1961 on the far lower left when obesity was 13%. And then you can see, if you follow the red line, that obesity ends at 42.4% in 2018. But look at the sugar, not very much change over this period, right? But there's an incredible correlation to the vegetable oils. In fact, during this period, 1961, to 2018, sugars only went up 14%, vegetable oils up 230%, but obesity climbed more than threefold, 13% to 42.4%, right? We're going to move in a little more recent. This is obesity in the US between 1999 and 2018. And you see, watch obesity in the red there, climb from 30.5% to 42.4%. But here we see sugar falling since at least 2004 and since 1999 in some data. So while sugar fell, obesity went through the roof, right? But again, in lockstep to vegetable oils. This is severe obesity. You can see in 1999 it was 4.7%, rises all the way to 9.2%, but look at the sugar falling, of course. Same data. So that doesn't change. All right, so sugars during this period down 8%, vegetable oils up 30%. Severe obesity doubles. You say, well, it's the carbohydrates, right? Well, here's carbohydrates in the United States. Declined from 1997, as you see at the bottom there in the green, declined from 1997 through 2013, while obesity elevated from approximately 29% to 38% during the exact same period. So while sugars fell, carbohydrates fell in the United States, obesity went through the roof. This is diabetes in the United States, going clear back to the 19th century. All right, look on your far lower left over here, diabetes only 0.0028%. And if you think this is not accurate, it is. In fact, this is published by the famous Sir William Osler, one of the founding partners of Johns Hopkins. He published this in his first textbook, Principles and Practice of Medicine, I believe it's called, 1893. It was taken from the US Census. That is 2.8 per 100,000 people. That's how many diabetics there were that year. But look how high the sugar already is. It's approaching 300 calories a day. Right? But the vegetable oils between 1866 and 1908 were only 1 to 2 grams a day. They were negligible. All right? Move clear up here to 1935, and you'll see at the top there, sugar consumption exceeded 450 calories a day, 23% of calories, almost a fourth of calories coming from sugar in 1935, yet diabetes only affected 1 in 270 people, and many of those, maybe most of those, were still type 1. If you look at the bottom there, it was 0.37% diabetes. Now on the far right, you see that diabetes, most recent data, 2016, affects 13% of people in the US. So a very strong correlation to the vegetable oils, not much correlation to sugar here. Now this page represents, I don't know if you can see those, but it's 100,000 dots, and I'm doing this to try to represent what diabetes would have been in 1890 when it affected 3 per 100,000. I tried to highlight in the upper left here 3 dots. It's hard to do in the red there. All right, that's how many there were in 1890. Here's how many diabetics we have in 2016, 13,000 per 100,000. So this is an increase of 4,643-fold over a period of 126 years. So I didn't test it, but I think it's statistically significant increase. Now, let's go back to this, where we were in 1890, 2.8 per 100,000. That was 1,764 diabetics in the entire United States, 63 million people that year. All right, if these ratios persisted, there would be just over 9,000 diabetics in 2016 out of a population of 323 million today. How many do we have today? 34.1 million diabetics. So we have more than 34 million excess diabetics. Why? Well, let's go back to this. So this is more recent, and we're looking again in the United States, vegetable oils and sugar versus diabetes. So sugar in the green, vegetable oils in the blue, and diabetes in the red. And you can see the diabetes in 1991 was 2.97%, and on the far upper right, diabetics 13%. Notice again, while the sugar declined since 2004, right? The diabetes goes through the roof in lockstep with vegetable oil consumption. So there's the curve, that's the trend line for vegetable oil right there, that in blue.